All right. It's all you, Peter Gander.
Hello, YouTube. How you doing out there in the world of YouTube and everywhere else? So now we're on four different platforms right now that we're on, and it's getting exciting. I don't know, maybe one day we'll be on 12 or 20. I got to tell you, the main place where we will be here very quickly will be in the metaverse, and we're going to talk about a couple things. We have a really special guest with us tonight, but before we get to asking him some questions and getting his perspective on this, most of us connected and heard about the metaverse in maybe the last year or so with Decentraland and Sandbox and some of these. The person we're going to have on tonight has believed in, understood, and saw the clear vision of what the metaverse will become and what it could mean to the world for more than 17 years now. And he's put his time, his effort, his brilliance, and his money on the line to make it happen and be a part of it. And we're going to talk about that. But before we get into this, so most of us don't even know, we heard the word metaverse. We heard that Facebook changed their name and that they're getting into doing something. We've heard the name Decentraland and Mana, and we've heard all these different things that are out there. And I wanted to show you guys, because I think the big thing is I've been talking to people about it, and I show them maybe some video or some footage, and they go, oh, that's really cool. But what we're going to start this out with is looking and seeing, first of all, what do the three, what would be considered right now in the crypto side of things, the three top metaverses, what do they look like? What is it like to be in one of those? And that would be Decentraland, Horizon, and Sandbox. Okay, so we're going to do that first, and then I'm going to play a video of Otherverse, which we're helping work with and do a lot of the stuff getting into the token space. So they've contracted us to help them do this, and we were excited to be a part of it. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen. So Brian, first of all, welcome to the call. I don't want to make you sit there, but I need people to see why we have to show them. Okay, so give me
your thing.
All right, thank you. All right, so guys, we are going to start with Horizon. Well, actually, you know what? I'm going to start with Decentraland. Okay, so Decentraland is one of the first ones that said, hey, we're going to get in this. So what you're looking at here is actual play time in Decentraland. These are avatars. So this is the character. What I want you to look at is the detail of it, right? You know, the turntable there, the trees, the environment that people are in, because I think a lot of people right now, if you mention metaverse, they kind of think of it from a gaming perspective. And we're going to talk to and ask Brian some of these questions. But the metaverse is so much more than just games, right? This is it's a huge opportunity. So this is Decentraland. Currently, right now, I believe Decentraland's market cap of their token is about $4.5 billion. And this is what you get to do in their metaverse. You can run around and you can look at more of a cartoony type feel. So this is one of the top metaverses out there that are in the marketplace here. Okay, so we'll let this play out. The next one I'm going to go jump and play is Sandbox. This is another one that has, this one's about a $3.8 billion market cap right here in Sandbox. Very kind of gamey as well. And this is the same. You can walk through here. There's some games here and there that you can play and engage within the metaverse. Now, remember, land in Decentraland, land in Sandbox are selling for, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars for land in these metaverses. And before we go and show you we got one more to show you. I'm going to have Dawn, can you pull up the slide from the PowerPoint that we did that is the Citibank, because I want to also mention to people of how big the potential of this metaverse is over the next 8 years. And GPS Citibank did an analysis of it, and they've given a slide that tells you where they believe that the metaverse will be, and she'll show that. Okay, so now let's go look at Horizon. So you guys know that Facebook changed their name to Meta. This is their their metaverse is called Horizon. Okay, so you can see the avatars here. You can see people training. Now they don't have any legs, but don't be worried. It would just save you on having to buy a virtual pair of pants, right? Since you have no legs, you don't need pants, right? But of course, there are people out there that love pants, right? They love the look of them. They love the feel of them. That's why people pay $200 for a pair of jeans, right? Because they're excited about pants. But evidently, Horizon didn't think people needed pants in the metaverse, okay? Or legs to have pants. So this is Horizons. Again, look at the avatars, look at the environments that are there. Now, real quick, Dawn. Oh, no, I'm going to show the Otherverse and then you can pull up the slide. So then I'll stop sharing. So Otherverse is the brilliant creation of Brian Shuster. And guys, I got to tell you, what you are about to see is footage from inside the metaverse. Okay, this is a version that's coming out. It is Aeon version of the metaverse, of the software that you're about to watch. Now, hold on to your chair or sit down, because compared to what you just saw, it is gonna, okay, I'm just gonna play the video. Let's let the video do the talking for us. Again, guys, focus on the details, the look of the characters, the background, the trees, the screens playing on it, the moves of the characters, look at the variety and dancing that's taking place, the fireworks in the sky. When you begin to look at the metaverse, not just as a gaming environment, but as an environment where people will live, work, do business, do all kinds of things in that space, you got to think to yourself, which environment would I rather have a virtual conference? Which environment would I rather have a trade show in? Which environment would I like to go to my favorite concert in? And I've got to say, from my perspective, I would not even do it in the other three. Too cartoony, especially. Imagine a business meeting where you're at a trade show and you're having a moose come in wanting to look at and buy your products, right? Or a dwarf or something, right? I mean, just like a animal character type thing in there. So if you begin to look at the quality that's there, I'm gonna pull up the chat here, guys. Can you guys give me the best words you can on the difference between the first three we looked at? I want your guys' comment on the first three versus what you're seeing right now going on there. So let's see some comments on the difference between these two. Stellar, incredible. No comparison. Feels like I could be there. Otherverse are pro, the rest junior high. I was thinking more like kindergarten, but we'll give them junior high, right? Unreal, real, awesome. Next level. Also, guys, we have some, okay, so now I'm going to stop sharing, Dawn, and can you share the slide on the potential that GPS City believes the metaverse has in the next 8 years? So they did one where they kind of sat down and tried to figure out what was the potential financial impact and the number of people that will be on the metaverse in the next 8 years by 2030. Again, third-party stuff, guys, that have it there. You could have pulled up the slide, Dawn, from just the pitch deck. Oh, you got it. There it is, right there. All right, the metaverse is potentially an $8 trillion to $13 trillion a year opportunity, with over 5 billion users in the metaverse utilizing metaverses in just the next 8 years. And what I want to ask you a question is, imagine being the leader in this space. Imagine being not just a leader, but the person, the company, the entity that created the space and actually made it possible for even the companies that are in the space right now to be a part of it. And with that, I'm going to introduce you to the man that was a huge part of making that happen, Mr. Brian Shuster. How are you doing, buddy? And it's great to have you on here.
Well, thanks, Peter. Yeah, it's great to be here. I'm doing well. Thank you. This is exciting.
Excellent. So let's start with some questions. I'll ask some questions and we'll open it up to the community for questions. The questions I want to stick on, guys, is the metaverse and where it's going. The business side of things, we'll talk about that at other points and other times and things like that. We will talk about an NFTs that we're going to be launching for Otherverse here in the very near future. We'll cover a little bit of that. So Brian, 17 years ago, what were your first initial thoughts? Because you've put a lot of time, a ton of effort into this. I mean, I've filed enough patents to see with just the patent filings you've done, a massive fortune has gone into doing this, just in filing fees and all that stuff. What was it 17 years ago when no one even had heard the word metaverse, nobody knew anything about it, that got you to say, I want to be a part of this, and I believe that this is where things are going to go? Yeah,
well, again, I appreciate you having me on, and it's great to be able to answer questions and enlighten people about what I'm really passionate about. Hopefully we can get to what really inspires my current passion. But, I started out back in the early 1990s with pioneering internet technology. I looked at the internet back when it was a collection of universities and government institutions. I realized the commercial potential for this. Of course, I was a kid back then. Put together the first banner ads, put together the first advertising program, HTML 0.8. And so it was that pioneering spirit. We did a lot of disruption in the web, in the early days of the web, when I literally couldn't get a venture capital. I mean, I'm turned away from venture capital fund after venture capital fund saying, nobody's going to want to have a modem connected to their computer. Why in the world would people connect computers together? It's like, God, you guys don't see this vision, right? And I really rode that. We developed a lot of Web 1 and then Web 2.0 stuff. We did a bunch of patent filings on, the technology that powers Web 2. And even before Web 2 really rolled out, my late partner, Ray, and I were looking at this saying, there are a lot of verticals that can't be disrupted by asynchronous communication, the Web 2 stuff that we were developing. Things like conventions, things like concerts, things that really require synchronous communications. At the time, I had been playing one of the very first MMORPGs, Asheron's Call. And, my favorite story about it is, I'm on a quest, I'm trying to decompress from working 18-hour days, and I'm doing a quest with a group of explorers in Asheron's Call. And this woman, this girl joins the group, and all of a sudden everybody stops the quest and it all becomes, a flirt fest. Oh, where are you from? Oh, you're in school, what do you study? And I realized, here are things that we're trying to do with Web 2 that can only be done with avatars. Here's another platform that could be commercialized in an entirely different way. And that's inspired the very genesis back, 18, 19 years ago of what is going to be Web 3, which is going to be a best of internet and web technology and a best of massively multi-user online role-playing game technology, what we now call MMOR, massively multi-user online reality. And, I was a fan of Star Trek. I see the holodeck, and I always thought, if the technology could exist, then it will exist. I said, okay, I see where virtual reality is going to fit in. We just need to composite these three things together, internet, MMOR, and virtual reality. And we're going to have, what I was calling back then, the virtual world web, which everybody now refers to as metaverse. So metaverse is more catchy. I liked VWW personally because it sort of played on the WWW of the World Wide Web. But either way, same concept. And it's a great way to describe when people ask me what is the metaverse. It's the best of internet meets best of video game in virtual reality, or platform agnostic. watch it on a screen, watch it, interact with it on a mobile. There's utility for any of those pieces.
Well, I got to say, someone put in here, Facebook started in the early 2000s. Amazon started, guys, in the mid 90s. Here's Brian looking at the internet before all of that and saying, wow, what can this be? What can that be possible? I love visionary people. It's kind of like you walk into a house and I'm sure Brian sees it decorated already, right? He sees exactly what he wants. We've been working with him now for, I don't know, 4 or 5, 6 weeks. Brian knows what he wants when he wants it. And then when he sees it, he knows he sees it, right? So that is definitely a huge trait there. So Brian, 17, 18 years right now, you have kind of been in this space when before people really thought that it was going to take off, and through that so one of the things we've talked a lot about, we're building it into a lot of stuff we're doing, is that it's, and we'll talk about patents here in a minute, guys, because that's a huge part of it. But you guys have experienced over the last 17 years a lot of things that Decentraland, Sandbox, and Horizon, and any of the other players that are coming up, because there's a lot of people trying to figure this space out. You guys have spent years having the problems and fixing the problems, and then finding the problems that, so you found the problem, you fixed the problem, then found that there was another problem and had to fix that problem. They're still back here gonna have to find those problems. Talk about really being that far ahead of everybody else and that aspect of it.
Well, it's very tough to be too early. Spent an absolute fortune preparing this thing for widespread public adoption, and it's quite frustrating then to have it languish on the vine because virtual reality headsets didn't come out and the technology really wasn't there to support it. But I think more to your question, the metaverse is absolutely the most complicated thing that I think anybody could be involved in. The level of detail of issues and problems that happen, if you just think about the flat web and the problems that the flat web experiences in terms of griefing and anonymity and phishing attacks and spam and denial of service attacks. I mean, all of the, and let alone like trying to put together a website and generate traffic and gather the statistics for that and be able to do statistical analysis and then making it look good and all of these pieces. It's an order of magnitude more complicated. So I'm watching the video of these, that you're playing at the onset of this AMA, and I'm thinking, through Zoom and through this platform, I'd love for people actually to go to YouTube and see it without the latency and the lag. But everything from just the pace of the walk, I mean, it has taken more than a year to define and properly get the avatars to walk in a way that feels natural and comfortable within the environment. I look at what these other platforms are doing and say, yeah, if it's a cartoon, it doesn't really matter whether the walk looks realistic, whether it feels real when you're in a headset that this is actually you walking. These types of problems are, and these are the minor problems. The significant problems start to take place, when it involves community and how the community interacts. So first of all, making the environment fun and charming and with a user interface that's accessible and easy to learn. This has killed a lot of competitors in the past where the user interface is simply, burdensome. And if it doesn't catch you right away, if it doesn't have that charm and that wonder to it. So it's this hybrid of, I see competitors or, even people on my staff who say, well, the avatar should fly. We should give people the ability to fly. You say, well, okay, that generates motion sickness if you're in a VR headset. So, do we want to enable that? It breaks the immersion. So it becomes unrealistic. But, the really significant problems start to come, as I alluded to with the community and with griefing and with, how do you prevent an adult from predating on a child? How do you prevent children from gambling? I mean, I wouldn't touch Decentraland. If people gave me land in Decentraland, I would refuse it. The liability here I mean, there's people gambling, and there's no KYC. They don't know who it is. You just have a MetaMask wallet. Well, I am sure there's prosecutors looking at that right now. And if you have land there and you're attracting people to your land, are you a co-conspirator in that? You know, they may not be able to arrest the people who run Decentraland, but boy, if you know this is going on and you've got land there. So, I mean, you know, how do you undo these things? How do you upgrade the resolution of your characters? How do you deal with land that's been sold in a low-res version of your software? Upgrading to a high-res version of your software is a nightmare. We've gone through 3 generations of software to learn how to deal with community, how to deal with policing the community in a way that's hands-off but hands-on, how to deal with, you know, these architecture layers, these protocol layers, this, you know, as I describe it, the access control layers, where you know, you give the community the freedom to express, but you also give them the tools to be able to protect themselves, and you have the tools to protect the platform. I know I'm sort of shotgunning this because it's like hours of discussion, but the problems that get encountered, I mean, I suppose here's the way to sum it up, right? You can't just iterate and upgrade your platform from version 1 and have this be the ultimate final version. There are so many intricacies that you really need to start over and create a second. I mean, these platforms will not be able to iterate. They're going to need to start over. And this is going to cause massive disruption to any value that you've built on the old platform. I mean, just imagine, you know, if you're trying to build, you know, a trade show convention floor, you own a convention center in Decentraland version 1, and 5 years to build Decentraland version 2, maybe if they could get it done, your trade show floor is going to look like crap in version 1. All of that investment basically worthless. I hope that made sense. I got to tell you here, I know I'm not in the metaverse, and I know we don't have flying on. I'm about to lift out of my seat, because when you look at that aspect of it and you're going, wait a minute, the metaverse, the next 8 years, like you said, 5 years to build a version, multiple years, having to come up with how do we fix from the first version to the second version. We went through this with tokens, right? Having to reissue new smart contracts because they did a bad job on the first one, right? All of these things are extremely important that I think the average person that says, I want to own land or play in a metaverse or a token that belongs to a metaverse, these are the things as participants on that side, but we need to think about, you know, who has the advantage, you know, who is going to be the leader in the space and moving things forward. And interoperability is another like huge aspect. Yeah. I mean, if you own land in, you know, what I call the metaverse would be equivalent of like what we were working towards, what we are working towards, what we're actually releasing here is a next layer of the internet, a layer that sits above the World Wide Web. If you're talking about like these walled garden little metaverses, you own land in one, and you own an avatar, you own an NFT that's operable in one. That's not, I mean, unless they agree on the protocols, which they will never do, it's not moving from one to another. So, you know, are you buying stock in pets.com? You know, are you buying stock in theglobe.com? Or are you buying stock in amazon.com? I mean, one of those three is still around.
The other two not so well, right?
Right.
On that side of it. I think that's an important thing too. And a lot of the ones that are out there, they do try to talk about this collaborative thing, but they're not building the tools to collaborate, right? They're really building something that is a non-collaborative model, but talking about collaboration because of the concept or the idea about it. So it's kind of a little disingenuous on their part by saying we're going to be able to do these, right? Because it
is fundamentally incompatible unless you have an agreement on protocols, and you know that it's a really big distinction. What we are building is a platform upon which anybody comes in, they own their own metaverse, just like you'd own your own website on the internet. the internet being the platform. The Aeon browser is how you're going to browse from one metaverse on our platform that's interoperable to another. So, we're really looking at community-driven community building, and it's not building by buying land from us. It's building by, we give you the tools, you build your own metaverse, and then it's interoperable. So that comes with enormous advantages. Like, you generate a bunch of traffic to your own metaverse, you can leverage that traffic. You can buy traffic from other sources if you have a value proposition, and you could sell that traffic. That traffic is yours because that's your metaverse. Index to search, and people can search and find you on a network, which is a much bigger network. All of these, it's a lot of.
Well, this would be along the lines of if they made one giant website and said you can have a page on it versus go out and build your own website. The Amazon could do what they're doing. We could do what they were doing. So the idea of the Otherverse is to build a place for people to be creative, to generate their own spaces, to then be able to expand and grow and come up with ideas like Airbnb or something that could never be thought of if it was just this one entity like a Decentraland or any of the other ones that are out there. So that is part of the process here, right? Brian, is not just Otherverse as one metaverse, but Otherverse is building. So again, like you said, I want a metaverse. I come with this great idea. I love cats. And so I want to build a cat metaverse for people that love cats. And I'm able to come in, take my own metaverse, build that, but yet have that connected to my friend down the street who liked Wolverines. And so he built a Wolverine one and I built a cat one, and my cats can go visit the Wolverines ones and be safe because they're virtual Wolverines. So they're not going to eat the cats, right?
Right. I mean, I talk often about cars and dinosaurs, but I like cats and Wolverines too. I mean, yes, that all works. And the beauty, in my opinion, of this is that, what we saw in the video were human avatars, and when I say you can't fly, that means in our primary region, I've disabled that capability. But if you want to build a cat metaverse, then you could allow your users to have an avatar walk around as cats. You essentially have full creative control. You get to set all kinds of, we call it Otherverse sovereign services because you become a sovereign of your own territory. So you get to set the rules. The cats can fly. They can, have wings, or, they can mesh deform into different, you can set all kinds of services, provided that there's this foundation of, user bill of rights, basically, where the users will always have certain tools to be able to protect themselves against theft or phishing or fraud, these types of things, right? You wouldn't be able to override that, but you could even change the user interface. So if you want to build a game as part of your metaverse, your game needs UI elements, score, and a tracking system and a map or whatever, you can add that in. And so that's our concept of empowering people, just like you say, it's not buy a page on our website. It's here are the tools to code a website in HTML and stick it on the platform, and that gives you all the freedom to be able to do that.
So Brian, you hit on something huge, and that was Aeon. And you just said it because you know what it is, but we have a whole audience of people here that are like, Aeon, what is, and I know that it hit him for a second. What is that? And then of course, what you're saying is so interesting. They said, oh, wait, I forgot about that. Let's talk about, because one of the things that when I looked at, I said, wow, Otherverse is incredible with this. And then you started to talk about building Aeon and how it would be. And I guess the easier word to put it for people to understand it is the Google search part of the internet. Google took the internet and said, oh my goodness, there's so much out there. How are people going to find the right place to go or what I'm looking for? So they built a search technology that allowed people to find my website if I have what they need as fast and as efficiently as possible. Can you explain to them what Aeon is and how that relates to what I was just talking about as far as Google and the search side of things?
Sure. So, I mean, the first thing to think about is, the way that the web started as, a bunch of standalone applications. You download an email client, you download a Usenet client to browse news groups, and then along comes the first browser, and it aggregates all of these disparate elements. And suddenly, because they had the protocol system in HTML, hypertext markup language, suddenly there's some uniformity, and you're able to access all of these features. Plus, you can easily create new rich media interactive websites, or at the time, not rich media or interactive, but flat websites, right? Which was really a breakthrough. And so the Aeon browser is really the same type of evolution here for metaverse. So you, through a browser, and this is when I say we've created the protocols, right? We're operating as a domain name system. So you get a domain name, and people can landmark your domain, which means they, click the landmark and suddenly their avatar materializes in your metaverse. Your different regions of the metaverse are equivalent of, pages on your website. So, they can landmark different start points in different regions. And so, you can think of that as the bookmark feature. You have a back button, I accidentally walked through a door, hit back, and I'm back in the other place. I want to go back forward again, all of these things. And this makes it very easy for somebody to be able to put into chat, hey, check this out. There's a concert going on here. Bam, link, click, you hyperlink over. So, we're really taking the best of the internet. Search in a metaverse, especially in a network of metaverses, is completely different than searching a flat web. Searching a flat web, you're looking for data. Searching a metaverse, you're often looking for attributes like, I want to go to a club that is, full. Maybe I'm looking for people local to Vancouver, where I happen to live. So, you can have these search parameters. I want to go to a convention. I particularly need to go to this hall of the convention where, these things are on display. So you need to have that data. So really, in that sense, we become the Google, we become, the domain name registrars and the DNS system. And that's where all of this under the hood, what we have been building, this massive next version of the web, when I call it that, it's really this architecture, these protocols to be able to, reimagine how this all works in an immersive environment where you've got VR, you've got mobile, you've got flat web, and all of this needs to be integrated together. So, having a browser, Aeon browser, that puts it all in one place, simplifies everything, and it really is empowering. And then it allows all the, it takes all of that burden off of the end entrepreneur, the end user. All you have to do is launch this browser, and you get all of this this access, instead of having to learn all of these different, download all of these different standalone wall garden metaverses, and try to figure out how to navigate from one to the other, and find what you're looking for in any individual one.
I got to tell you, about a week ago, I saw this story, and it was about a lady who was walking down a path. She went out with a walk with her husband, and they saw a little shiny thing on the side of the road, and they went and they dug it up, and it ended up being buried gold coins, like hundreds of thousands of dollars. Does anyone else feel? I didn't know what she felt like at that time, like when I read the story. I know what she feels like now, because we just dug up a buried bag of coins, right, that are worth an absolute fortune when you start to look underneath what's going on here, guys. When you hear Facebook changing their name to Meta, when you begin to read reports about the metaverse being $8 to $13 trillion, and all of a sudden we've connected with this incredible opportunity that's here for each and every single person. And the first way that you guys will be able to get involved with this is through the FNFTs. We're going to talk about that real quick. I know there's a couple questions here, guys, but there's some stuff we know that we want to get to. And if we ask too many questions, we won't get to what we know. And somebody had put in about patents. We are going to talk about that. But the first place we're going is, lots of people putting NFTs out there, and they're talking about them being immersive in worlds and being able to be used and all kinds of stuff. Well, I talked to Brian. I said, Brian, yep, NFTs. He goes, no, stop. Okay, so I'm going to let you, Brian, you educated me. I'm going to let you educate everyone on here on the difference between an NFT and an FNFT, and then maybe touch on what we're going to be doing and how they're going to be able to participate in buying a package of NFTs in the 3 series that we're going to do. Yeah,
sure. So, you know, I mean, the problem in my opinion, with the NFT market, you know, it's easy to say, we've got an NFT and you're going to be able to use this in the metaverse. But the reality is, you know, I mean, as we've just been discussing, what metaverse? These things are not interoperable. And, you know, when you talk about, like, you know, a Bored Ape, you know, this thing is just an image. This is, you know, a piece of art. You could display it in theory, you know, if you've got a space in the metaverse, you display it on your wall, or, you know, it's neat to show on your phone. But the difference between taking that and actually having it be useful, well, I mean, I'm dancing around the word, right? F stands for functional. So these are functional NFTs. And what you get with a functional NFT is, you know, if you've got, let's say, an ape, it needs to have bones, and it is what we call it. You know, it's not exactly the same as skeleton bones, but, you know, you can think of it that way. It needs to have bones. It needs to be rigged. It needs to have all kinds of skin textures and layers to be able to do, you know, occlusion and, you know, to be able to, I mean, if you want it to look great, it needs to have, you know, all kinds of work done to it. So that you can articulate this thing and have it actually function in a metaverse. Now, every skeleton, you know, there are thousands of decisions to be made about where you put bones and how the bones interact and how that generates motion. I'm giving an example of an avatar NFT, right? So if you've got an animation, you stick it, so motion of an avatar, and you stick it on an avatar that's rigged incorrectly or doesn't have the same bones that you use to animate it, the thing is going to flail around. I mean, the animations won't play. The hand will go through the head, you know, I mean, it's just going to be ridiculous. Functional NFTs actually have function inside our platform. So you can buy an avatar, that avatar can have can actually operate. You buy clothing, that clothing can mesh deform, so it can move on your avatar. Your skin won't stick through, your arm doesn't stick through the shirt. You see this on less developed platforms where, you know, we call it interpenetration, or, you know, poke through, where your skin is poking through. You may not have skin underneath at all, so, you know, you see just, you know, invisibility through the shirt. These things are so, it's hard to express how much they break the immersion and make the play like so distasteful. Then there's all of these things like, you know, these neat special effects and particle effects. So, you know, on the video, you see that the girl has glow, one of the girls, the dancers, has glow hands. And these are, you know, spectacular when you see a dance floor full of people with glow sticks and glow hands. This is a functional NFT. You can buy the NFT and it turns your hands into glow sticks. You know, shirts can, they can have function. They can enhance animations. They can give you powers and this type of thing. And so this is really where we distinguish from, you know, these flat old school NFTs that really are, you know, a piece of art, to FNFT, which is art, but it's actually been designed to function and serve a purpose in the other verse.
Well, one of the neat things is with the series, so in about 3 weeks, guys, we'll have all the fine details and begin to get this rolling with. What we're going to be doing is offering 3 different stages in the offer of the NFT. The first stage is going to be 3,000 avatars with a package of FNFTs that come along with it, that is going to allow you to have special benefits, special effects, things that will no longer be available. So limited edition. Anything I'm missing there, Brian?
Well, I would say, the important thing to highlight on that is it's a package. So it comes with, it's not just one NFT, but you get the avatar, that's a pre-made avatar, along with then certain clothing items, certain accessory items, certain particle effects, which are the special effects, and each of those can be dealt with individually, let's say. So, they don't have to stick together as a package.
Right. I can break it up. Somebody else,
Right.
I get the special extremely rare watch. Everybody else got a regular watch. I get the extremely rare one in my package. Somebody says, I want to give you 20 ETH for that rare watch. I'm able to then sell that to them or swap that with them and then take it and go buy some other stuff and do some other things. So that's the first launch of it will be about 3,000 NFTs. The second launch will be 6,000 additional ones. Now, what happens to the people who bought the first 3,000?
Yeah, so the first 3,000 are a special collector's edition item, I want to say, is a special item. We haven't revealed what that is yet, which can be opened basically to get the whole package of NFTs when we do the second drop of the 6,000, right? And so, you'll be able to keep that on display. I think, those items may appreciate in value. Let's say, the very first NFT drop. And then, of course, and so everybody who got the first one gets, of course, the whole package of NFTs, the FNFTs in the second drop. And then if you want to describe the third drop.
Then we're going to go to the third drop. So the first drop is 3, the second drop is 6, the third drop is 12,000. So let's go through that process of the first, second, and then the third. And then what's really huge about the third drop?
Yeah, so the everybody who gets the first one will also get the second, and the third. Everyone who gets the second drop will, of course, also get the third. And the third drop is the private virtual property. So this is where in the very first Otherverse region, there's this beautiful condo, and in the condo, what we call Zabbies, which is your private apartment, basically your private condo unit, in this exclusive real estate package, this condo building. And of course, this becomes a community. So the condo building itself is interactive. You have neighbors and community events, but also beautiful views, and the prime location in the center of the first Otherverse owned sovereign territory.
Anybody else just think about, hey, I haven't been able to afford my downtown New York City apartment, but I'm going to be able to get one in the #1 metaverse in the world by participating in what we're doing. So incredible, incredible, incredible. Brian, you hit on this a couple times with charm. And really in a little bit of detail, because I've gone in the other metaverses and I've played, and I think you said there was a quote by a newspaper person who was talking about, maybe we can just, it's a quote, it's not your quote, it's somebody else's, but maybe we can talk about that side of it where, you making this special, bringing that together in a little bit more detail.
Yeah, so when I look at Meta and Horizons, so the quote from the reporter, I don't know if his newspaper, I forget offhand, is, it feels like attending a PTA meeting. And that is exactly what we don't want to have. Unless you love PTA meetings. The idea
that would
charm,
be a small group of people,
right,
Brian,
right,
like PTA meetings. I'm telling you right now.
Yeah, it's a very niche market. What we try to do here, what I'm really passionate about is human connection, community. The community, we want to foster a community where you want to be there, where, if you're feeling down, the community brings you up. If you have a problem, you know that there's help there, and you feel good by helping other people when they have issues or problems. Our classic platform that's been in operation for, well over a decade. The charitable contributions, the fundraising, just the support groups. You hear like, we've had almost 6,000 weddings. So, you find soulmates there and have virtual weddings. And, I hear like, I get emails like, I'm paraplegic and, I never thought I could experience this again. And suddenly, I'm living this whole rich life. I'm getting married, and it just, it really makes me feel like what I'm doing is, changing lives in the way that I want to change lives. But, part of that is this charm where, for example, it absolutely blows my mind. Like, you see Horizons, they don't give their avatars legs. There's a reason for that. I don't know this for a fact, but come on. They don't want to have to deal with what's under your waistline, so they don't want to have to deal with questions of intimacy. They don't want to have to perfect the avatar walk, these things. In our metaverse, you in our current software, you hit /hug and your avatar puts its arms out. So, I come up to somebody and they'll put their arms out. I know what that means. I right click them and suddenly we're hugging. That is so connecting. It's not molesty. It's not something to be avoided. You don't want to separate people that way. I can't go and do that to somebody who hasn't offered. But, when they greet you and you get a hug, you feel that charm. And then to add the charm, little particle effects like little hearts come up, right? So you just feel like, oh, this is better than the real world. It's almost Disney-esque, we're hugging and there's little hearts coming up and, birds chirping or whatever. And it just feels good. And then you want to share that and you want to do that. And this is a way of making community want to participate and want and feel connected and feel loved, which I think, personally, this is, I said at the beginning, I'd love to talk about my passion. That's my passion. Yeah. We need to have a metaverse. The dominant metaverse needs to undo this damage that social media has done to us over the last decade. It's not the best possible outcome of actually being there in person and being able to do this, but it sure is better than being, separated by a computer and asynchronously, crapping on people. When you can look them in the eye, when you can meet people and feel like, geez, we went to a comedy club or we went to a concert and I feel like I've gone out with friends and had a beer and this was great. That's the charm element that I'm talking about.
Yeah, that is absolutely awesome. So we're excited about it. So now, and that's actually what we're excited. So we're all about community, right? That's what the Nexus ecosystem is. It's what TruBadger is. It's really what we've been doing for 6+ years, not 17 like you, but for 6+ years, we realized that community is the commerce of the future, right? So these metaverses, people interacting and on that side of it. And so that's definitely, that's what got me when we started talking and going back and forth. This is the stuff that gets us excited as well. So let's real quick, because I don't want to keep here all night. We do have a few questions from them. Let's, before we go to the questions, let's talk about, you spent 17 years pioneering this, an absolute fortune. Like one of the questions was, how do they generate money? This is already, the first version, guys, has already generated an absolute fortune in community commerce, about $15 billion converted to US dollars from the internal commerce that has taken place. So that's already been perfected. I want to let you know that the revenue model of this has been absolutely perfected. And now it's ready to go out to the whole world. And instead of having, smaller groups of people taking it to the masses and getting to that 5 billion people. So again, way, way ahead in the race, right? So just way, way ahead, okay, in that respect. But Brian, real quick, when you started developing this very early on in the process, you started filing patents, just like you did in the internet, right? In the internet days, you started filing patents, understood protection. You're developing this, you're spending millions of dollars, so you deserve to protect this. Can we talk a little bit about yourself, your brother, the patents that you guys have put into play, and then we can cover that side of it.
Yeah, sure. So, patents recently certainly have gotten sort of a little bit of a bad reputation because they're often misused, they're often abused. But in our case, I started, I started my first company, $700, and classic story, dorm room, right? Along the way, it was important to me to memorialize the inventiveness, if not to use the patents really as as a sword, more of a shield, but to memorialize all of the things that we pioneered and the technology which we developed. And so, and of course, along the way, there's a lot of value there. So, don't get me wrong. Patents were designed to exactly do that. Protect when I've spent $40 million developing metaverse for somebody to come along and then just say, okay, now we can grab your technology, all of the problems that you encountered, and we'll just implement the correct version that you perfected. That's not fair. There should be compensation. So, my brother, wonderful, brilliant guy in his own right. And he's not technically a patent lawyer, although he is, the best attorney that I've worked with in writing up the patents. So, he would periodically come to the offices and interview all the developers and, along with me. And we would sit down and we would figure out, okay, so, how do we package the technology, which is all problem solving. So it's encountering problems and spending enormous amount of energy and resource and brain power and months. How do you crack this nut? How do we, the intractable problem of, how do you get, Google wouldn't work, Facebook wouldn't work if you could only have 100 people hitting the site at a time. Well, in metaverse, how do you get millions of people? How do you get that critical mass to experience the same event? Because computing power, if you just think about the way this works, if there's 2 people, you just have to send data back and forth between the 2 of you. If there's 3, well, now I got to send data here and data here, and this person has to send data here, right? And you add, all of a sudden, it's a logarithmic problem. How do you solve this logarithmic problem where you add the 1,001th user and you're doubling the computing resources needed? Each incremental person, well, okay, so you spend an enormous amount of money and time and energy and come up with the technology to do it. And of course, you got to patent that. And so, it's patents like that. It's patents like, how do you do time travel in a virtual world? We haven't even begun to scratch the surface, but, being able to record events and then iterate on those events. So, I have a wedding and on my first anniversary, I want to go back and see myself get married. And then on my second anniversary, my wife and I want to come back and see us, what we did on our first anniversary, watching our wedding. Well, okay, this is time travel in a very real sense and not in the truest sense, right? But a lot of fun. So how do you render worlds that can enable you to record these events so that you can not just watch them as a video, but you can re-interact with them and invite other people? And there's whole suites of patents in these types of innovative technologies that it's exciting that we've got them, but just working through these problems, and you look at something like Sandbox or Decentraland, not to shit on the competition, but have they, ever conceived of the question of how you could record this, let alone actually crack that nut, develop the technology, right? There's so many areas like that where, we encountered because we were so early and so dedicated to the vision, we devoted to coming up with the technology to solve all of these problems, to create the ultimate end goal of this virtual world web platform. And this is comprises a body of patents that we have been issued.
And those patents, some of them are just a better experience, but some of those are, I don't want to use the wrong word, and I don't want to, but almost, or let's say critical in operating and running a successful large scale metaverse. Would that be something that would be easy to say there?
Absolutely. I mean, you know, if you want to run a metaverse that is going to achieve the objective, you know, where it's going to have charm, people are going to want to go there. You can actually really do these things. You can have large scale events and conventions and, you know, millions of people. These are critical. You know, you could do it. There are other ways to do that. Like, for example, having avatars that, you know, look like a Lego, but, you know, that allows you to have a lot more avatars. You know, you're not sending a whole lot of data,
Right.
but, you know, who wants to go to a concert when, you know, you can go to a concert and basically have an acid trip, you know, virtually with millions of other people, like in terms of the special effects and the, you know, the experience, you know, in my opinion, is completely critical.
Yeah, well, I think even in business, I mean, imagine, you know, we do a lot of things on Zoom and virtually once the metaverse is ready to go, right? We're going to have our daily work thing. We're going to have an office and we're going to go to that office. We're going to work. I don't want to seriously sitting around the office trying to get some work done. And Rhonda's floating around the office as a goat trying to kick me in the head, right? Would not
Exactly.
work. I want to be in a world where it's bridging the two, not in some fantasy gameplay situation.
You know, and you're going to want to be in a world where you can have your college lecture and you can have a party, and people can't show up at the college lecture and do the same things that they can at the party.
Right.
I mean, so you need to have these access control layers, and you need to have, I mean, you know, it needs to be like, it's not a free for all where you have one system. You need to have all of these points so that, you know, if you want to have a game where you can fly, great. But, you know, at a college lecture, I don't want a goat kicking me in the head, or, you know, people, you know, doing beer bongs when I'm trying to pay attention to a professor.
Perfect. Okay, so we're going to answer a couple of questions because they do call this an AMA, and I think the only one that's asking the question so far is me, and that is not that's unfair because I'm just a community member, right? Okay, so Martin had, and I'm going to read the questions for on Twitter Spaces and make sure that everybody can hear them. Can you use the current Oculus available today to go into your other verse? Are they compatible? And can you go into it without an Oculus? So VR, AR.
Right. So yes, our engine, so the graphics engine that we build upon is Unity, and that gives us a lot of capabilities. So we can do builds, and we are doing builds right now for PC and Mac. You know, when we get off of the demo and we go into alpha testing in the next couple of days, Mac, then task is to build the user interface for the Oculus, the Quest. The reason why, you know, we aren't rolling all of these out at the same time is, of course, because, you know, the user interface for complete immersion versus user interface for a phone, user interface for a screen, they all are different. Screen real estate, and, you know, where do you put the chat and where do you put the controls. But VR is going to be coming out, and then, you know, you won't want to do a lot of things on your phone, but there will be things that you can do on your phone. So, you know, if you got to attend a meeting, you know, you could pop it up on your phone as an avatar. You know, you can manage account stuff, but you can go in, you will be able to go in on your phone or tablet. So really, we call it platform agnostic. And definitely, I believe that the primary use case initially is going to be desktop. But it will eventually evolve as these VR headsets become more user-friendly, let's say. You know, a lot of use cases going to evolve for virtual reality.
Perfect. And the video that we played, guys, are people walking through the metaverse, the version that is coming, the Aeon version of Otherverse, which, by the way, guys, we are going to be running some contests, because I know some of you guys are going like, can I be a tester? Can I be an early access person? So we're going to be setting up some things where you can win an opportunity to get early access into it a little bit before everybody else. and then we'll have you come on and talk about your experience and move forward from there. So we are going to have those available, and the people who do participate in the NFT sale will also have the opportunity to have some early access to get in there and have some fun and play around in that side of it. Okay, so Joylyn asks, have you had a virtual conference using this tech yet? And then I'll read all three questions. So we are, what were the comments during and after? And are these strategies to use for a virtual in-person combo?
So yes, on our classic platform, we have had many conventions. We've had 5 conventions that we call Virtual Con. We're doing our 6th Virtual Con in June, mid-late June. And we have all kinds of events that are conventions and convention-like. So, you know, we've had game conventions like World of Warcraft. We have film festivals. As you can imagine, you know, it's really neat. You can go from theater to theater and watch independent films. But trade show floors, you know, we've perfected this technology. Many articles written up about us and how we're disrupting the trade show space, but really that's going to happen with the Aeon version. And so the first taste of a convention is going to be the 6th annual Virtual Con, which is going to take place in both software platforms. So, you know, we're going to have our traditional legacy software trade show floor, and, you know, whatever it is, 10 halls, trade show halls. And then we'll have some premium events in the new platform as really a way of starting to load test the convention system, because, you know, that's part of the development process is, you know, don't want to roll out like with a massive, you know, 10 million person convention. We want to do this, you know, test all the tools and all of that. So we're starting with 6th annual Virtual Con. So what were the other questions along?
So it was, what were the comments during and after? So the experience that people had, and again, going from the original version to Aeon, it's going to really bring the experience to life. I think one of the things when you think about in development and putting things together, you have to start with something maybe more simple and basic, and then work your way towards where it's heading now. So go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, so, you know, I mean, people have a lot of fun. Even in the classic version, I mean, you know, yes, the graphics engine is older, but, you know, we have award shows. So, you know, best booth and best company and best, you know, these types of things. And we stream in video, and we have panels and discussions. And so, you know, you get all of this information, you get to interact, and you get the networking aspect. So I think already they're very rewarding. I mean, what am I going to say about the comments? I hear the good ones. I don't know that my staff passes me.
They probably spread the bad ones, right? It's like, no, delete that one, right? Get rid of that.
So I'm going to say there's no negative comments. I mean, everything is positive.
That's awesome. All right, perfect. All right, so let's see. How do you, again, guys, the question is how do you plan to make money in your metaverse? I guess we can answer that: virtual goods sales, advertising.
Yeah, you know, there are really so many revenue streams, but the way that I would characterize them, it's a freemium, like analogous to freemium games. So in order to have access to more advanced features, there's a nominal monthly fee. So this allows us to do things like you can't private message until you've been authenticated. In order to authenticate you, there's a charge. And so, you know, there's some revenue there. Primarily, the revenue is microtransactions. So, you know, people come in, let's say you're going to create a metaverse. We're going to have there's going to be a royalty, a nominal royalty that you pay based on revenue generated. and all of this is, trackable with smart contracts. So, we don't need to take a lot because there's going to be massive amounts of traffic. And then, of course, we have all of this data. So there's the search capacity, there's domain name sales, there's, as I said, there's microtransactions. So, fairly sophisticated crypto and in-world currency pairing, and then to bring in NFTs, nominal fees all around. The main thing that's important is the fees are nominal. We want everybody to be able to thrive. We want everybody to, rising tide lifts all ships. If we have a small percentage of massive and growing, then everybody wins because everybody's incentivized to bring their business in and to grow on our platform. And of course, as you said, Peter, there's advertising. And the beautiful thing is the advertising isn't, intrusive advertising. I mean, generally, this is the type of thing is we're having a concert. I mean, this is what we see on our existing platform. We're having a concert. So we want to tell everybody about it. And everybody wants to know about it anyway. So you go on the events calendar, there's a small charge to get your event on the events calendar. And this is what I would call advertising. So everybody checks the events calendar and then people buy the tickets. But there's lots and lots of revenue streams like that. So we've, modeled all these things out over many years.
Excellent. I don't even know, Drew, if I can answer your question here, because you said what token is the NFTs going to be minted on or bought with? They are FNFTs, not NFTs, but no, just it's something new to get a hold of. The cost of the first bundle going through will be 0.3 ETH, whatever ETH is at the time. We are going to more than likely, because there's a lot of people that like to use ETH to buy it. And then there's people that don't like to pay the fees. We will probably do a dual mint, meaning some will be minted on Polygon for the low fees, and then some will be minted on Ethereum. So we get the best of both worlds. If you're like me and don't like to pay $32 to mint an NFT, then you can mint on the Polygon. And if you're somebody who is a Ethereum, not a bad thing, but just you're really into Ethereum, you like the chain, then you'll be able to do that. So we are working on that, but that is more than likely the path that we will take. Of course, it'll be cross-chain because we're using Muon's technology in order to be on all the different chains that are out there that use the 0x wallets, but there will be the point at which we initially mint, and we'll get you some more details. So that answers those two questions. How much money do I need to allocate to heavy buy? We're not financial advisors. Whatever it is you want to do, that is completely up to you. Will there be a token as well? That's another question. Yes, there will be a token. We'll have more details on that. And, some people may be able to participate, may not. We'll get all those details out. That is all going through legal right now and is in that process, guys. So we can't really talk a lot about that right now until we get all that stuff back. Okay. Let's see. Will staking of the other token work? So staking on it, Brian?
So there is currently an allocation for staking. I suppose there's some discussion about it on the website, but again, like you say, Peter, it's a work in progress right now. So in terms of what the payouts are, I mean, the thing about the token, let me say, without really going into any legal materials, there is an enormous amount of utility. I mean, we came out with the very first, I don't want to say the first, pre-Bitcoin virtual currency, because whenever you have an immersive system, people are coming into contact and you need to have a unit of account. So my co-founder, Ray Schwartz, he had passed away just before we introduced the virtual currency. I named them after him. I call them Rays. This is, what we built the economy on. What we've worked to do here is a really neat best of system where there's the best of cryptocurrency at an outside layer, which will be the coin. And then there's an in-world version of the coin that's going to be frictionless. So, you'll be able to do user-to-user transactions without a fee. And it's only moving them in or out of the system to the blockchain that's going to incur a nominal fee. But as far as, because there's so much utility, because the coin is going to be necessary for all the we will have some partners, swaps and whatnot, but effectively there's use case, there's a need to have the coin for all kinds of activities. In other words, it's unclear to me that the staking is going to be, what you get with these coins that don't have any utility and have to pay ridiculous amounts. You end up in a prisoner's dilemma there where, everybody's getting 20% a month or whatever. And, the first person to cash that out is going to get all the value. So, how long do you wait? We're not going to participate in that race, but there is value to staking. And so, there will be a staking allocation for sure.
Perfect. There's a very specific question that really refers to me, and Crystal is asking, can the avatar dance on a table? I've been known as at our events to get up on a table and do a dance for everybody. I don't drink either, so this is sober, to get up on a table and do a dance. And they want to make sure at the virtual conventions, I'll still be able to get on the table and do my yearly dance.
Well, I need to put that into a video. Because that's one of my favorite things too, hop up on the on the podium or hop up on the bar as an avatar. In real life, you're not going to find me dancing on a bar. But especially if you can super jump, and I think super jump may be an NFT special effect, so you can jump on top of things that other people normally can't get to.
I gotta make sure I have that feature on my avatar for sure.
Yeah.
So Ken asked the question, what is Nexus role in the relationship? Of course, we're the Nexus ecosystem. I guess we're more like a consultants, guys. We're working on helping with the smart contracts, help put the legal team together. We're working on revamping the website. We're gonna actually show the website that's up there now, so you guys can go there and look. We're remodeling, rebuilding the entire thing right now. It'll be about a week or so. That'll be premiered. We're working on the pitch deck. So we're working through a lot of stuff, helping with the NFTs. So we're really helping through the process to take this from, the first version of Otherverse into the blockchain crypto side of things. The other thing that we're doing, guys, is bringing you guys as base community members to share this, represent this, help drive this, the social media. Rhonda's going to put some links out there. Let's grow beyond that and bring this out to the virtual world. We have to do our part in order to earn our keep, right? You got to earn your keep in life. Nothing is for free. There is no free lunch, right? And so that's the relationship that we have in place. You guys will see our stuff will be on the website as a partner and working with Otherverse. I hope let's me
focus more on the technology side and actually building the software, and Peter and his wonderful team get to focus on helping out with those features that he talked about, the design of the website, the social media, and this community involvement.
Excellent. I don't want to keep Brian all night. So we're going to hold off on the rest of the questions, guys. We'll get some of those answered. We'll get Brian back on next week, guys. We're going to work on getting a walkthrough of the Otherverse, right? So we'll talk with Brian about that. Josh is helping get a walkthrough too, so we can take you guys through the world. That'll be next Tuesday night that we'll do that on there. This is just exciting, guys, to even be a part of this, to have this opportunity, to have a person, a team of people sacrifice 17 years to build something that was way ahead of its time, and then have the right timing come, and then to be able to show up and go, hey, here we are to help, right? And we're going to be part of this is I don't know how many times that can happen in your lifetime, but that's the way we feel, right? It's like, hey, Brian, thank you for these last 17 years of struggling and getting in front of audiences and say, you know, virtual world, and have people go, what the heck are you talking about? Get the heck out of here, right? And now we come in and go, metaverse! And everybody goes, oh my God, this is amazing, a metaverse, right? So thank you, Brian, for the time and the sacrifice you put into this.
Well, and thanks. And, you know, I just have to say, reading all of the feedback and the chat, I love this community. It's really inspiring to, you know, to see that I'm not crazy, right? And that there was a vision there, and it really is reality. So, you know, thanks everybody for your comments, and thanks Peter, and of course Don and everybody here.
All right. Well, thank you.
If you're
Brian.
crazy, you're
we'll
amongst
talking
good
tomorrow.
company.
So, because now we talk just about every day going through this stuff, getting all this stuff put together. So we want to share one slide. So we're putting together a pitch deck, guys, and me and Don. So when me and Brian talked, we said, we've got to have the experience side of this being way ahead of everybody else in this thing. And then we talked to Brian, he goes, yeah, that's what I wanted in the pitch deck, right? This is what we wanted to put together. So I was thinking, you know, and I love the movie Secretariat. There's a time when it goes completely silent and the track is there. There's no horses on it. And then all of a sudden the music starts to play and the horse Secretariat comes around the corner. And in that final stretch, they're saying, you know, it's 18 lengths, 20 lengths, 30 lengths, greatest race of all time for the largest win still to history today. No one has ever won by that distance. That is exactly what we are doing here with Otherverse. This is going to be a win by 31 lengths, the greatest win in one of the business history, one of the greatest wins that has ever taken place. Hi, Meta, way back there, Decentraland and Sandbox. There you are, out at the front, ready to cross the line, and they're not even getting close yet. That's what we have our hands on. This is what I want you guys to begin to go share, talk to people about, get them excited about what the sacrifices and everything that's been put together to make this happen. So thank you, Brian. I love talking with you. You're brilliant. And it's just amazing to be dorm room, $700 in the internet, and I wish I was looking at the internet at the early 90s, right? So I mean, it just would have been just absolutely incredible. So thank you for being here. Thank you. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, everybody.
All right.
Amazing.
Thanks everyone for joining. It's been fun. Well, let's do this again next week.
Let's do this again next week.
Noon on
Noon next
Tuesday?
week, guys. Noon next week. We're on the noon schedule, right? Every other week, 9 o'clock. Are we having a burn party tomorrow night?
No.
No?
No.
No, the next week?
I don't know. You're the boss.
All right. Well, let me look and see, and I will let you guys know if we're going to do that or not. We'll put a notice out. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. You are amazing, and thank you for helping us move things along. Thank you.
All right. Keep up the great work, guys.